Support for The Activity Continues is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in below-the-waist grooming. Their products are precision-engineered tools for all your grooming needs. Manscaped's Performance Package is the ultimate hygiene bundle. Join over 4 million, with an M, million individuals worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you. 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code ACTIVITY at manscaped.com.
So the holidays are approaching, and it's time for shopping for the men in your life.
And I don't know about you, but my husband is so hard to shop for. So if yours is the same, consider Manscaped. We are partnering with this company, and our guys got to try out their Performance 4.0 package, which includes 2 types of trimmers, deodorant, and toner.
Get 20% off and free shipping with the code ACTIVITY at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use the code ACTIVITY. Unlock his confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. And welcome to the Activity Continues podcast. We are your hosts. I am Amy.
And I'm Megan. Thanks for joining us again. This week is our last episode where we are covering the Fall River miniseries, which was supposed to be 1 episode, but what is this, our 4th?
This is the 4th. Mm-hmm.
Because it's just such, like we've said in all the other 3, it's just such a deep dive that...
Yeah.
So next week we are back to our regularly scheduled programming.
Yes, we are. It's just, I feel like part of me is like, I just don't even want to think about this anymore. But at the same time, this is the good one. You know, This is where all the really, really good shit comes out.
Yeah.
Like,
this is where
good shit, but you know what I mean?
This is the conclusion.
Yeah.
So this is where everything comes to a head and it's kind of wrapped up. So thanks for sticking with us. We're almost done, you guys.
Yeah. I wanted to mention while I was editing last week that I noticed that sometimes I called Detective Silva without the I. And so just on the off chance that anyone he knows is listening, I just want to apologize that it is Detective Alan Sylvia. And
he's totally listening. So we're really sorry.
Totally listening. And he when I was watching it the last episode again today just to put the finishing touches on my notes. And every time they mentioned his name, I looked up and because I have the closed captioning on because I'm old and need extra
right. No, I
pay attention.
I am not even old, and not that you're old, but I don't know. We've had this conversation. How does anybody watch a show without closed captions?
I know. Anymore? I don't know who any of the characters are unless I'm reading their names.
I know. It's insane. Yeah. Like I got it from True Crime Obsessed. Jillian watches everything with captions, and now I do too. Yeah, like I can't watch it.
I totally do.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, I noticed that in the show, whoever wrote the captions spelled his name with and without the I at the end. So I think that's where I got a little confused. Also, in the last episode, there's a character. They're real people. But there's a woman named Leah Johnson. And at one point, I called her Leah Chase. No idea why that happened, but Leah Chase. I'm like, what? That name sounds right. Why is that not right? And I Googled her, and she's a famous chef. So that's probably where I heard of her before. Probably. I want to say she's in New Orleans. So, so oopsie.
Maybe she knows Joey from Obsessed with Disappeared because he's from New Orleans too.
Oh, perhaps.
Everybody from New Orleans knows each other.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
Just like everybody from Minnesota knows each other.
Yeah. Speaking of Minnesota, those of you who don't live here, we had some shit falling from the sky today.
The roads were awful.
That's what I heard. I didn't leave the house.
So, like, my commute normally takes me like 15 minutes on a bad day. It took me 45 today.
Wow.
I go like 10 miles.
Wow. I didn't realize you were that close.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I clocked it and I'm 4 miles from when I get on the interstate to my exit.
Wow.
It's really nice.
That's a nice commute.
Oh my God. It's so great. Yeah.
Yeah. My commute's great too, but luckily I don't have to go in every single day. And we were going to meet in the office today, but then we decided not to. Last week we decided we didn't really need to. And so I just got to roll out of bed and come downstairs. But my coworker had to drive in and she said she spun out a couple times.
Mm-hmm. There were accidents left and right.
Yeah.
Because people forget, like,
I know
you forget how to drive. And I just, it's slippery.
Yeah.
I was dropping my son off at daycare today and slid right past to their house because it was so icy. I was just like,
scary.
There it goes.
And there we go.
So I backed up and I brought him in and I was like, did you guys watch me slide past? And they're like, we sure did.
We sure did. There she goes.
There. Megan goes.
Hi, Megan. Bye, Megan.
Bye, Megan.
Oh, God. I'm really glad I didn't have to drive today, but
yeah,
it's supposed to stop tomorrow, right?
Yeah, it's
snow through tomorrow.
I shoveled tonight and it had stopped already.
Okay.
I volunteered for shoveling because it was a workout and I hadn't worked out at lunch today. So
good.
Yeah,
I did not.
Yeah,
but Greg hasn't shoveled either, so it's
nobody
just
shoveled
piling up.
Yeah, that's fine. So. It'll melt. Honestly, it'll probably melt.
You think? I don't know. I saw something earlier that said it was going to be freezing temperatures tonight. And I'm like, shit, that means that tomorrow it's going to be even more slippery if they don't get out and clear the roads.
Well, I will say the plows were really on top of it. Like this morning when I slid past my daycare, a plow went right after me. And I'm like, you couldn't have gone in front of me with your frickin'
You were 30 seconds early.
Person distributor thing.
Yeah, they
didn't. They don't just have like a person hanging out in the back.
Not just throwing it out the window.
Like a flower girl, but with salt.
Right. Yeah, no, they don't have that.
Yeah, it was dreadful today.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Usually my city is pretty good at putting down some salt and shit before it happens, but they didn't do that this time.
Did we even know it was? I was like completely surprised this morning.
Was taken by surprise, but Greg's like, they've been talking about it for days. But
okay, but they talk about snow all the time, and 9 times out of 10, it never snows. So
yeah, I have not been paying attention to weather forecasts and stuff. I haven't watched the news in months.
I can't. It's just it's all depressing. Like I don't want to watch the news. No, thank you.
I know. I used to watch the news a lot.
I can't anymore.
I just haven't watched it in a while. I still get news updates on my phone, so I know like in general what's going on. But yeah, I can't. I don't just sit and watch 2.5 hours of news like I used to.
I get all my news the way God intended through TikTok.
Gotcha. Okay.
So
yep,
that's all I need to know.
Cool.
If it's not on TikTok, it didn't happen.
Right.
I don't make the rules. You guys just follow them. So.
All right. God bless TikTok. All right. So yeah, we are super eager to get back to the Dead Files.
Yes,
we miss watching those. I know every time I turn on the TV and I'm like, what should I watch? I'm like, I really want to watch a Dead Files episode. It used to be like I had to watch them for this. And then I was like, but I want to watch this dumb rom-com or something instead. But now I want to watch them, but I don't want to watch them now until I'm ready to start recapping them again because I have to take notes and all that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But speaking of, I did watch a really cute show.
Okay.
Called, a movie. And it was called Look Both Ways on Netflix. It's a story about a young girl. She's just finishing up college and she has a one-night stand with her best friend. And in one, it's like a sliding doors, like parallel universe. So in one side of the story, she is pregnant, and on the other side of the story, she is not. and it's how her life veers
Yep.
on those two paths.
Mm-hmm.
And I love those kind of things.
Yeah.
And it was really cute.
Oh,
it was
good.
really cute. It was funny. The acting was good. The main
Good.
girl looks a lot like Brittany Murphy.
Oh, nice.
Do you know which one she is?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. She's okay. I
Yeah.
might have to check that out.
Yeah,
then.
you'll like it.
Yeah.
I think it's really cute.
Yeah.
It's not just cutesy, you know. I mean, it's
there's like
kind of
some
irreverent
merit to it.
And Luke Wilson plays her dad, and the woman that
I
plays
love
her
Luke
mom.
Wilson.
Yeah, he was great in it. He was so sweet.
He's so cute.
And the woman that plays her mom, her name is Andrea Savage. And I don't know if I've told you about this before. I don't think I have on the show, but maybe separately I have.
IRL.
IRL. We do talk in real life sometimes. Not as often as we do here, but she has a show on Hulu. I think it's a sitcom. Well, it's sort of a sitcom that I've just happened upon and fell in love with it. Binged the whole thing in like 3 days and then I cried because it was over.
Oh.
But really, really good show. So I can't remember what her show's called, but it's Andrea Savage. Anyway.
Someone's probably Amy shouting at us right now the name of it.
Yeah, probably. It's probably called Savage or something like that.
Or Andrea.
Andrea's show. The Andrea Show.
Yeah. The Andrea Show.
But
that's what it should be called if it's not.
It should be because she's excellent. She's amazing. I'll put links in the show notes. But anyway, that's my suggestion for TV today. If you're going to watch something else.
I've just been watching Hallmark movies and crafting. Yeah. I saw the stupidest one last night. I had to turn it off. I had to turn. I'm like, this is terrible.
Not good, stupid?
Not good. No. And it had Tia Mowry in it. And it was just... The acting was horrible, which for a Hallmark movie, that's
really saying
bad.
Something. Yeah.
And like her love interest was like had no depth to him. Just are you acting or like it was terrible. It was terrible.
Are you a cardboard cutout?
Yes, basically.
with cotton balls taped to your shoes.
Oh Lord. Nope, we didn't have any of those, but he was really cute too, but he was just the worst actor. So I had to turn it off. I'm like, I can't, you guys, I can't, Tia. So sister, this is not.
I saw one with her last year. I saw one that she was in and it was okay.
Mm-hmm.
So
was it the gingerbread house? Because this one was terrible.
I don't think so.
She's an architect and she has to build this life-size gingerbread house for her firm. And the baker that she was partnering with, of course, gets stolen by the competition. And she meets the baker they hire because he puts down a cake for their holiday party and smears icing on her drawings. And then it's just the dumbest,
It sounds like you watched quite a bit of it.
I did, because I was crafting and I'm like, whatever. I don't want to waste time, finding another one. So I'll give it. I probably watched like 7/8 of it. Like I probably stopped it right before they finished, but I'm just like, this is dreadfully awful.
Yeah.
So
some of them are bad.
I did watch the cutest one the other day called Falling for Vermont, about this author who wakes up. She gets in an accident and wakes up with amnesia, and she falls in love, shocker, with the guy who is, shocker, a widow with 2 kids. Isn't that what always happens?
Oh my God.
It was so cute. Oh my God.
I'll have to look for that one. That reminds
plot
me.
Twist, he wasn't her high school sweetheart though. So
okay.
There's that.
Okay.
That reminds you what?
That I watched the Lindsay Lohan one on Netflix.
That looks so cute.
It is cute. And it's very similar. It's amnesia. And then she falls for the guy that has a little kid. He's a single guy.
Is he a doctor?
No, he runs an inn.
This one was a doctor. Yeah. I really hope Lindsay gets her stuff together because she was adorable.
I know. It was really fun to see her looking good and healthy and then if you watch it, stick around to the very end, because after the credits or like during the credits, they show outtakes. And so
I love it.
It's really cute because that you can see like she didn't just show up on set and act like a diva and leave. She's like joking around with the little girl and stuff. And it's really, maybe it's all acted. Who knows?
Yeah.
But it was really cute. Yeah.
Good.
It was cute. I really liked it.
She was so like Mean Girls and The Parent Trap and just so cute.
I love Mean Girls so much.
Who doesn't?
So
All right,
good.
we should probably get into
Yeah,
this, or
we should probably get into
I
this,
swear, you
Gabby.
guys, we do talk in real life more than this.
You know,
Based off of this, you think we never talked ever, but
right. Well, we mostly talk on text because I'm not a phone call person.
oh God, I
And
think
we
I've
don't-
literally called you like 3 times
Yeah.
in like the 9 years we've been
I
friends.
know. I'm getting better. Like, because at work I have to call a lot.
Yeah.
I have to like call and place orders and stuff. And every day if I don't go into the office, I call the girl I work with
Mhm.
and we talk, which is great. It's fun talking to her. But
Every day I'm calling you.
and then my mom needs to be called all the time because
Yeah.
she can never remember
How's
how
she
to.
doing?
She's fine. She
How's
can never
she-
remember how to text versus message versus back and forth. And so I'm like, just call me. Fine, I'll deal with it. But yeah, so like when we're on break,
Uh-huh.
from the show, we could just do Zooms like this and just chat about shit and put those up if anybody
should.
wants to
Honestly,
see them. And
we
not
should,
then we
'cause
don't have
I
any
do-
work to do, We don't have to like, do notes
But-
and all that kind of
And
stuff.
I do feel like we should, just to release stuff. Like I
Yeah.
was thinking about that. I don't want to go that long without releasing
I don't
stuff.
either. Okay, so the last thing I want to say, the promo partner this week is still Hello Poland. And I listened to a couple of episodes and it's really a good show. The woman,
Okay.
like I said, she's from South Africa, so she's got this beautiful accent.
Oh, I love it.
I listened to an episode where she was talking to her American friend and playing Polish music for him and then saying like, what do you think this song is about? And he's like, I don't know. It's about baking biscuits or something. And then she's like, nope, it's about murder or whatever, And so that was really fun. I would not recommend the other one I listened to that was about demonic possession because, I would recommend it to other people, but not to you.
Not to me.
Because it even gave me the creeps. So
I don't like it.
And I don't scare easily.
No, you
but
don't.
she had like spooky music and her voice and all that. It was really good. So check out that podcast. You should be able to hear the trailer during this episode. Okay.
When I was a child, I ran for the bins. Been so many downs, so many beds. Now I'm coming down, you lower your looks. I was born from woods, deep for your limbs. I'll burn your bones.
In the Prohibition years of Minneapolis, Minnesota, there was an underworld. Gangs of bootleggers, bandits, sluggers, and murderers roamed the streets and conducted their business. One of the most legendary figures of that time was Isidore Blumenfeld, also known as Kid Can. He began as a newsboy and grew into the most notorious gangster Minneapolis has to offer, and either a psychopath or the nicest guy ever, depending on who you ask. Volsteadland explores this world. Join me, Amy, and my co-host Heather as we journey through this era of prohibition, bank robberies, empty promises, and murder.
So let's jump right in.
All right. All the warnings.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Content warning, everything. As we said before. Although, we're not going to get too into it. But
No.
there are some gross things that I will be mentioning.
Okay. So recap, everybody in the show is a liar.
In case you've forgotten.
You're caught up.
Yeah. Don't believe a word anybody says.
Anybody says, honestly,
Yeah.
nobody, because they all, even if you're like, well, what about this person? No, they
Probably
lie.
not.
Just
Probably not.
trust us on this.
Not necessarily the talking head people. Maybe some of them do too. Certainly some of them
I would
do.
say like maybe the reporters don't,
Yeah.
but everybody else
Yeah.
probably does.
I think the PI is on the up and up, and I think
Chris, I do
yeah.
love him.
Yeah, he's cool.
He's the one that about the chicken soup
Yeah.
at 6:30.
Right.
And Andy, just to remind everybody, Andy, so they recap the stuff about Andy and how he's raping little girls and molesting little girls, but the police didn't care because they were just trying to catch a murder, because solve a murder, because murder's the only crime that matters, apparently.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you weren't pissed off enough already, they do recap all that stuff.
Yep.
In the beginning of this episode. This is episode 4 called Into Hell.
Yep. So this is the last episode in the series.
Yep. It's a 4-part series. I recommend watching it. I really do.
Yeah. It's
tough.
So good.
It's good, but it's real tough.
It is. It's really, really, really hard because so many, I mean, like we've talked about, Robin was fucked for life.
Yeah.
Because everybody who was supposed to protect these girls failed.
Yep.
So it's tough, but it's good.
It is. So one of the things in the beginning as they're kind of recapping, is they show Robin at her parole hearing, and she was asked, how do we know what is the truth today? And she says, I don't think you do.
I don't think you do, Robin.
I don't think she does. But yeah, I don't think she does either, because she's been telling stories for so long. That
I think she's a pathological liar, and I think she will convince herself that something is the truth. Whether it is or not it's
possible.
Yeah.
There's one part I thought was funny. They show Andy's lawyer, and he says, quote, it does not stand to reason that one 17-year-old woman would be at 3 separate murders committed by separate men at separate times in separate places. What is she, Forrest Gump? Just to recap, the lawyer is talking about what the police are saying happened, and that Carl Drew killed Doreen Levesque, Andy Maltese killed Barbara Raposa, and that Carl and Robin killed Karen Marsden. So that's what he's talking about. We're not saying that's what happened. We're saying that's what the police say happened.
Right.
Or the DA. So
that piece of shit DA.
Oh my God. So in 2004, Carl's lawyer, whose name is Mike Cutler, he tried for a new trial for the Karen Marsden murder, because remember, that's really the only one he was on trial for.
And convicted for, despite having no evidence.
Absolutely no evidence.
None.
So they were granted an evidentiary hearing. So Cutler explained that without forensic evidence, which, like we said, there was none, you are relying on the credibility of witnesses. So they were bringing back these 2 women, Carol Fletcher and Leah Johnson, not Leah Chase. And just a refresher on who they are. They're both sex workers. They both worked for Carl. Leah Johnson was actually the girlfriend of Carl Drew for a time. And
she's the one her a ring.
She's the one that ended up with Karen's ring. And that's part of what, in some fucked up logic, linked him to Karen. Because he could have found that ring anywhere. She could have given him the ring.
She could have given him the ring.
He didn't have to murder her to get that ring.
Or he could have taken it before, because, she was, because wasn't she the one who was not working for either one of them?
No, that was Doreen.
That was Doreen. Okay. See, even I get them confused.
I know. I'm telling you, the only reason I can remember any of this is that I've seen every episode 3 times. But anyway, so Carol says that it was because they all had criminal backgrounds that the DA and the police were able to threaten them with jail time if they didn't say what they were told to say. And that she, Leah, we already know Robin, all lied at this trial.
Yep.
And they then later recanted, said, I wasn't there. This didn't happen. I lied. And I think at the time they didn't say I was forced to lie. I think they just said I lied. And so then now they're not credible.
Yeah. Yep.
So they brought them all.
Wording.
Yeah. So they brought them all back for this trial. So There's a part where Michelle McPhee, she's one of the investigative journalists.
Mm-hmm.
She explains that this is a class issue. This whole trial is a class issue where poor people go to prison. They don't have lawyers. They don't have resources. They don't have people fighting for them.
They don't have the schooling to really understand everything.
And Carl mentioned a couple times, like, he couldn't read and write. So
No,
he didn't know
dropped
what
out
all
of
these
school.
documents were. He didn't know. And he never went to school. He didn't understand. He knew the street, and that's all he knew.
Yeah.
So when people are explaining legal terms to him and stuff, he doesn't know what they're talking
He has
about.
no idea.
Right.
Yeah.
And still he keeps thinking, I didn't do anything. So there's no way I'm going down for this, you know? So poor guy. So, she calls this Michelle McPhee, she calls Carl Drew, a, quote, poor whiskey tango dude with no family. And it was very easy to railroad him into prison. And I was like, whiskey tango? And then I remembered that whiskey tango is one of the things that it's one of those words that they use to say, like, W
and like,
and T.
In military speak.
Yeah. And like radio, when they're radioing something. And you say like
phonetic.
Yeah. You're like
That's the word.
Like B as in boy.
Yeah.
So whiskey tango is for WT, and I think she was saying he was white trash.
Yeah.
I think that's what she was saying.
Mm-hmm.
So in 2004, they brought all the characters back, and some of them were retired, the police, and some were not doing well. The sex workers, Leah and
drug use.
Yep, Leah and Carol. They were both quite fragile, and they do have some audio interviews with these ladies before they brought them back to the trial.
Yeah.
And you can tell they sound so tired.
Yeah. Yeah.
They just sound like, they want to
There's just
help.
no energy in them. Yeah. There's no energy in them.
It's rough. Yeah. So, and
don't do drugs.
Right. I mean, how can you avoid it in the 70s when you're a 17-year-old sex worker?
Right.
But so Leah, at one point, Cutler says that Leah even at one point nodded off and fell off her chair. So the judge really didn't see her as a very credible witness, which is unfortunate.
It is, but I kind of can see his point.
Yeah, I know.
Or their point, I should say. I shouldn't assume it's a man. That was very sexist.
It's a man.
I hate it when I'm right.
It's a man. So there's another sit down with the filmmakers and the state trooper, who I think his last name is Fitzgerald. And he's basically asking, like, how on earth could they have killed Karen, slit her throat? And this part we didn't talk about before, but he asked this of the guy, so I'm going to say it. But they alleged that the killers slit her throat and chopped off her head. So
because her head was never found, only the top
part of her head was found. Yeah, he's like, if all of that happened, wouldn't there have been blood in the car? Because all this, this clown car full of all the bad people in
because in the car you have Robin, Carl Drew, Carl Davis, Willie Smith, and Carol Fletcher driving.
Yep.
So 5 people.
Yeah. Yep. And Karen, is that counting Karen, or is that? Would that be?
No, that wasn't counting Karen. So that'd be 6.
6 people in this car.
Yeah.
So he's asking, like, the filmmaker, that is asking this trooper. He's like, so did you find blood in the car? No, there was no blood in the car. Well, how could all these people have killed her and not
no blood?
And there's no blood in the car. And he's like, well, they didn't kill her in the car. They killed her outside. And he's like, yeah, but if you are doing all of that to somebody, you're going to have blood all over you. It's going to transfer to the car.
Yes. You can't slit someone's throat.
Right.
I would assume, without getting blood on you.
Right.
That would be tricky.
Yeah. The trooper goes, well, yeah, you're right. And the filmmaker goes, well, then the story that is the party line or whatever, the story that everyone's going with, couldn't have been true. And you could see, like, the wheels turning. He just sits there and blinks.
Put it together.
Get there faster.
Connect the dots.
So, he realizes, he gets the trooper to say this could not have been the story, basically.
Right.
And then the filmmaker goes, could she have been killed somewhere else and dumped there where she was found?
Like throwing
and he
him
is
alive.
adamant that no, that's not possible. But he has no reasoning for that. He's got there's no reason he's saying it can't be. So anyway, so then they
Mhm.
go and they show this retired cop, Paul Carey,
Who's
is
Chris? Like, wasn't he Chris Hayes' mentor?
Yeah, he and Chris Hayes' dad were friends.
I knew there was Chris
So,
Hayes' dad in there
yeah.
somewhere.
He's the one that we talked about this last time a little.
Yeah.
He's the one that when he retired, he took all of the case files for this case and he
Mhm.
brought them to Chris, who was a PI. I
Mhm.
don't know if Chris was a PI at the time or if he just became a PI because he was given all this. And Paul Carey brought it to Chris Hayes and said, I need your help. We got to look at all this and get to the bottom of this because this is not fucking right.
Right.
And so then they show Paul Carey and he's being interviewed. He has since passed.
Mhm. Recently, I think it was like 2019 or something that he passed away.
I think it was recent, yeah. And he said, this is a quote, "They know, the state cops know, they know what they did and they know what the DA wanted. They did what they had to do and they're not going to change nothing. They're not going to change their mind about nothing now."
Yeah. Because at this point, it's too far gone. To admit that they fucked up this badly would mean that they ruined at least one person's life. Carl Drew has been in jail for 40 years for this crime.
Yep.
40 years.
Well, and if they've done it to Carl Drew, who else have they done it to? And it's like that, my favorite, not a murder, I call it not a murder, the staircase case, where I think she was murdered, but I don't think she was murdered by Peterson.
Michael.
Yeah. The blood expert.
Yeah.
That did, that said it had to have been, he had to have beat her over the head because of where the blood was in his shorts and all that shit. Came out that he made that whole thing up, that he's done it time and time again.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's part of why Michael got another trial.
Yeah.
Or hearing at least. When that happened, then they had to look back and go look at all these other cases that Deaver was on. And he fucking did it to all of these. So now we got to retry all of these cases.
I just heard a podcast. I can't remember which one, but this woman had a cadaver dog, and this cadaver dog was like the best in the country for finding bodies. And it turns out she was planting body parts for the cadaver dogs to hit on.
Oh my
and
God.
This person had solved hundreds of cases.
Oh my God.
And they had to go back and look at every single one. Like the damage that these people do because they get, fame hungry. Like I think at the beginning she was doing it for the right reason, but I don't I'll have to remember what podcast it was, but I was just like flabbergasted by it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I can see why these guys don't want to admit that they've done anything wrong because first of all, they'll all lose their jobs if they even still have them.
Right.
And then
credibility will go.
Yep. Credibility.
Down the tank.
And then possibly all those other cases are going to have to be retried.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway. So, at this hearing, Cutler was talking about how Robin was called as their witness, but she basically doubled down on her lies and said she admitted she lied, but she still had it out for Carl, and she still said she believed he was guilty 100%, and that's why she lied, because she just wanted him off the street and blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
So Cutler said he believes
she wanted his territory.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and she probably didn't want to be, beat up by him anymore either, because they came to fisticuffs a couple times. So Cutler believes that he did not have a straight up judge. And so the new trial was denied. And the reason was recent testimony is not credible. And so basically he's out of options.
Oh, luck. Yeah. That was his last.
Yeah. That was his last try. And Carl said that the judge was so quick to rule because he had his mind made up before the hearing even started. And Cutler says that he even heard that the judge was having lunch with the prosecutor every day to make sure that everything was going according to plan. So,
if that's true, these are people's lives. Like, how can people be so cavalier?
I know.
With other human beings' lives.
I know. I'm sure their justification is the same as Robin's. The guy's a shithead. He should be in prison anyway. Fine. But that's not the way it works.
Right. Which is not wrong. Like, he's not a nice person.
Right.
And he probably should be in jail. But put him in jail for the right reasons.
Right. For something he did and actually proven.
Mm-hmm.
not just something you made up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this is about 17 minutes into this last episode when we get to the really good stuff.
Yeah.
This is when Sylvia says that Carl's appeals are done now. No judge will give him another shot unless some new evidence arises.
Dun, dun, dun.
So we teased this a little in the last episode, but we talked about how Carl Drew was contacted by a man who claimed to have witnessed the murder of Karen Marston when he was a child.
Mm-hmm.
And
he was like 5 or 6, I think, is what he said.
He was little. Yep. And Carl says he knew the kid's mother and that the kid was trying to track down his father. He never knew his father, but he said the kid found him on Facebook. And I was like, I didn't know you could get on Facebook when you're in prison for murder, but maybe you can.
I mean, maybe you can.
And so we see this kid who appears to be in his 30s, I would guess 30s, 40s, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, if he was 5 or 6 in the 80s, then
It makes sense. Yeah.
Yep.
He wants to remain anonymous, but really all they did is cast a shadow on his eyes. I mean, if you knew him, you'd totally recognize him.
Yeah.
I mean,
for sure.
I could have drawn him and, you know, from what they showed. So I don't think they covered him up very well. But anyway, he says he lived in Harbor Terrace, and that's that building where a lot of these people lived.
Yep.
He said he lived in the top row. He calls it. I assume that means the top floor.
Mm-hmm.
He said 2 doors down from Sonny Sparta, who is Robin's friend.
And Sonny had the apartment where all the cops hang out at, where Karen hung out at.
Right.
Robin hung out at.
Right.
Yeah.
So he's right there in the thick of it. And his mom also was, I think I put this down later, but she was also a sex worker and a drug addict. So she was kind of in that whole crowd. He lived with his mom. She was a single mother. And when she died in 2013, he was cleaning out her apartment and he found his baby book, and in it was a picture of Carl Drew. And it also noted that he was the first person to come and see him in the hospital when he was born. So this guy puts it together, is like, I think Carl Drew might be my dad. So he contacts Carl Drew. And then I thought this was funny. They have a voiceover of Carl, and he goes, like, he doesn't know. He's not really sure if he's a father, but he could be. He goes, I did bang his mother and all that stuff.
Oh, my God.
Carl's a gem, I'm telling you.
He's a gentleman, I think is what you mean to say.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was a police file that they showed on the screen, and I froze it.
Of course.
And then I wrote down everything that was on it. But it was basically about when Karen went missing. And this is a report of when the kid's mother called the police.
Okay.
To say, my son said blah, blah, blah. And it says that the caller indicated that she'd known Robin for about 5 years and that she is sure that the person responsible for several unreported, and then it was redacted, is Robin Murphy and Andy Maltese. And then it had her name in there, which I'm not going to say, but because that would give away the kid, but it had her name in there, which I thought was weird. It says that she has no concrete evidence, but told us all a vision she discovered that Karen Marsden was dead and that her body is either in an abandoned building or in a well location in the reservation. Her vision did not depict a specific area. She also told us that some unknown male helped Robin murder Ms. Marsden. And now that I'm looking at this again, I don't think that is the kid's mother that said all that. I think that's just a lady that did
that lived in the apartment complex.
I think so. Yeah. So anyway,
it doesn't make sense that they would keep him anonymous, but then say his mother's name.
Yeah, and also that it wouldn't make any sense for this person to say, "I had a vision," when what she's really reporting is that her kid saw something.
Her kid told her.
Yeah. So anyway, this person who saw the vision, she said that Sonny Sparta was a godparent of her young son, and that the reason Robin committed the crime was so that she could shed a shadow of a doubt on Carl Drew for the murders Robin and Andy committed, including Doreen Levesque and Barbara Raposa. And then there was some other stuff that was hard to read and was crossed off. But anyway, so the kid says his mother was a drug addict and a prostitute, his word, and he witnessed a lot of fighting. There was a lot of turmoil.
Yeah.
Stuff
there's
going on
to be in that world.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the way it is.
There was always lots of yelling and screaming and commotion. He said he started acting up at school and they put him in a special needs class, which I wrote apropos of nothing because I don't know what that had to do with anything.
Yeah, it didn't need to be. I think it was just showing that he started acting up because of his life. But
yeah. Anyway, so he says he told his mother that he saw these people up on the roof killing a girl. The director asks, who are the 3 people you saw? And he says he's pretty sure one of them was Robin.
Mm-hmm.
He is 100% sure the other 2 were Sonny Sparta and Carl Davis, not Carl Drew.
Not Carl Drew.
He said he saw a lot of yelling, screaming, and crying. He doesn't remember how he got up there. When asked if he saw Karen, he said it was kind of a blur, but he thinks so, and she would have been dead when he saw her. He knows that he saw Carl Davis pulling a woman away from someone else, and he thinks it was Robin that was being pulled off of Karen.
Okay.
So,
I don't know. I mean, if this kid is Carl's son, then of course he's going to say that it wasn't him.
Right. There is that.
So, I mean, it's a new theory, but it's tainted. All of the stories in this are tainted.
Yeah, by the fact that everybody was either on drugs or 5 years old.
Yeah, or on drugs or lying.
Yeah.
Or a child.
Yeah.
Or you have some other motive.
Yeah. So then we see a scene where James Buddy Day, he's the director of the film, he's talking to Carl on the phone, and he's telling him his theories after talking to, I'm going to call him the kid, the witness. He says that he does accept that the kid has a reason to protect Carl, seeing as he could be his father, but he doesn't really think that's what's happening. He spent time with the guy, took him out to lunch, he confirmed his identity, and he doesn't think the guy's lying.
Doesn't think that's what's happening, or doesn't want that to be what's happening.
It could be. Yeah. I mean, every documentary that's about, like, The Staircase even, or even. I didn't think it was one-sided. It took me a long time to decide if I thought Peterson was guilty or not. But people who think he's guilty are like, that was so one-sided. But I don't see it that way. But anyway.
Yeah.
So James Buddy Day floats his theory. That is that, okay, so Doreen was murdered and then Barbara was murdered. And these 2, the MOs were the same. Hands tied, heads crushed by rocks, posed sexually. And then they go back to Chris Hayes, and he says that these look like the work of a male serial killer. And then James says that Robin has said that 2 different people committed these murders, that Carl killed Doreen, because that's what Karen told her, and that Andy killed Barbara. And James thinks that Andy killed both Doreen and Barbara, and he floats this to the state trooper in another episode, who agrees that that's really strange. Like,
the coincidences.
Yeah. Why didn't we think of that? So he shows a map, and he's like, he shows where Doreen was killed, and he shows where Barbara was killed, 6 miles apart from each other. Directly in the center of that is where Andy lives.
House. Yep.
So Carl says he never met Andy until he was in Walpole State Prison, which is one of the toughest joints in Massachusetts at the time. But I'm not really sure, and I still couldn't figure this out. My newspapers.com subscription ran out because I didn't want to pay for it if I wasn't going to use it. And then I wanted to use it today. But
that's always the case.
Well, I was confused. Yeah, I know. I was confused because Carl was in prison. Andy went to earlier on in one of the earlier episodes, they said when Andy was convicted of Barbara Pose's murder, he was sentenced to life in prison. However, he didn't go to prison.
Mental hospital.
He went to a mental hospital where he died.
But didn't they say that he was in prison earlier for something?
He was, but that was in 1957.
Oh yeah, and Carl
would have been too young. Yeah, and also Carl said that he met him just before he died, and he died after he had been convicted of Barbara's murder. So anyway, Carl says that Andy was his own worst enemy because he was a blabbering idiot and he liked to agitate people. James says that the police knew that Andy had a criminal background very similar to these murders. When he was, I think we talk about this again here, but yes, we do. Okay. So Andy, now we're going to look at his funny daughter again.
Yeah.
She says when she heard that he had a criminal past and then he was raping kids, she was going to research it. And she researched it by calling her Mammy. Because she, I noted because in her world, moms don't lie.
Yeah.
You know, even about their pedophile sons.
Yep.
So she said her mom, though, came through and told her that when she met her dad, Andy, he was just coming out of jail on a rape charge. And that would have been, you know, that was 1957 that he was arrested for that.
Yep.
I don't know how long he served.
I thought they said 5 years, but I could just be pulling that out of my ass.
Yep, that could be. I mean, it could be right too. So yeah, we mentioned this last time, but as a refresher, Andy was arrested in the Freetown State Forest in 1957 for picking up girls from a junior high in Fall River, taking them to the park and raping them.
Yep.
And I noted this.
He raped Robin and he raped her friend. I think her
Catherine.
name was Catherine.
Yep.
Yep.
So one of the former officers, a female officer, in town says that things just fell through the cracks. Things get missed.
Okay, but I feel like things falling through the cracks should be like, you know, maybe a burglary at the convenience store or somebody stole a T-shirt from Walmart. Like it shouldn't be the raping of little girls.
Exactly. So James, now this is the filmmaker, explains more about his theory. The girls were all tied with what they called white twisted twine. White twisted twine. That's
3 times fast.
That's a tongue twister. White twisted twine, which is white fishing line. And I felt like twine and fishing line were very different things. And so I looked it up. The fishing line that you and I know of here in Minnesota is not the same thing. I think this is more like, you know, they're
like nets.
Yeah, it might be more like sea fisher, you know, as opposed to lake fishing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I looked it up and I put a picture in the thing. You can see it. And so I've seen this stuff before. It's white and it's kind of shiny and it's braided.
Yep.
But it's still really skinny.
And it's really smooth when you feel it, like very silky.
Yep. So apparently Andy had some of that in the trunk of his car. It was part of his bag of tricks that we talked about before that included rope, handcuffs, and vibrators. Yeah. James also says that he spoke to one of Andy's victims who got away and that he tied her up like that with the fishing line. And then we go back to Catherine, who you just mentioned a minute ago. She's the one who accepted a ride home from Andy and he raped her. And then with the puppies and all that.
Yep.
She said she remembers that he had a freshwater fishing pole and in his car. And she said he would also tie her up. He'd tie her wrists to her ankles. James says that another reason for it to be Andy is that he was really vocal about saying it was Carl. And he believes it was a
Plus, he kept calling the police and trying to figure out what they knew.
Yep.
Like serial killer 101.
I know. He's like, hey, do you guys know about this guy named Carl Drew?
Yeah.
I think he did it. He's a real asshole.
Inserting himself into the case.
Yep. I mean, okay, I get that it was 1980 and that they didn't have 40 years worth of these kinds of things happening over and over again. Now we're looking back at it this many years later and we're like, yeah, that happens all the time. Maybe in Fall River it didn't happen all the time.
That's true.
But still.
That's true.
Okay, so back to the state trooper. He tells about a time Andy was brought in because he said he had info on Doreen's murder. So they brought him there to the state police. They had to like sneak him in the back room or something, or back door. And then when he got there, he said he didn't have any info. He just wanted
to be a center of attention.
Yeah.
Classic narcissist.
Right. Ugh, there's a lot of that going on in this town.
Mm-hmm.
So the filmmaker asked the trooper if Andy was a suspect at the time, and he said yes. But then Andy brought in Robin and Karen, who both said that Carl Drew did it.
Yeah.
So I'm seeing that, at least that it started, that it was Andy that made Robin and Karen start to
say what they were saying.
Carl. Yep. And then the DA and the rest of those guys just were like, hey, that sounds good. Let's go with that.
Yeah. And I mean, he had the leverage. You know, he told Catherine he was going to kill her family.
Yeah.
if she ratted him out. So I'm
Right.
sure he used that same mentality.
Well, he did with Karen,
Mm-hmm.
because she said she was afraid of Carl,
Mm-hmm.
but we're going to find this out in a little bit, but we'll get there. I don't want to
Okay.
say it because then I'll end up having to say it again and I'll be all confused.
Yeah.
So James again says that Karen talked a lot about being at Doreen's murder, but never said who was there, never said who did it. And Carol also reiterated that. Karen's grandmother told police that Andy, not Carl, had threatened Karen before she was killed, and told the grandmother that he thought he might be arrested for Barbara's murder, and if that happened, Karen's safety was in jeopardy.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So Andy was arrested February 7th, 1980. Karen had gone missing February 8th, so everyone thought Andy couldn't have killed her because he was in jail. But yeah, James, the filmmaker, he found out that Andy's lawyer had actually arranged for bail, and Andy was released from jail the day that she was murdered, the day she went missing.
Just hours
just
before
hours
she went missing.
Just hours before when they believe the murder took place. So then James goes on to say that while we don't have Karen's whole remains, we have her skull, and it shows that the upper left part of her forehead was crushed, just like everyone else.
Yep.
So the witness on the roof claims that he is 100% sure that Carl Drew was not on the roof. He is not 100% sure about Robin being there, but he's pretty sure. And then James talks about how he's been trying to get Robin to talk on camera and that he's going to tell her all this and see what she says. And then he tells Carl that he's going to get this to someone who can help clear Carl's name. And I believe he's referencing the Innocence Mission.
Yep.
Innocence
Project.
Right? Project.
Innocence Project. Yeah.
Innocence Mission is a band from the 80s. Innocence Project. So, and this is where it gets exciting. We see them setting up to interview Robin on camera this time.
Mm-hmm.
So, James asks about Andy and how they met. And she said he gave her a ride during a snowstorm, but she doesn't want to talk about any more of that. She asks him if we could just move on. Yeah.
Because
that was
when
her
he
first,
started molesting
her first big trauma, or at least
one of them.
the first,
well, no, her first big trauma was her brother raping her.
Yeah. Well, we don't know when that happened. I guess it could have happened before.
Well, true.
Could have happened before Andy. It could have, for sure.
Because she was 11 then. So
yeah.
Jeez.
So I know. James asks if she knew Andy had been to prison before this, and she seems really surprised. And she says, "What? I've never heard about that before this moment." She says she never suspected him for the Doreen murder. But then James pulls out a case file / police report where she explains that she talked about Andy being with Doreen and that she thinks Andy killed her.
So he catches her.
He's
in
basically
a lie.
like, but ma'am, here's what you said. And he shows her the report. And I paused it and wrote down what it said. And it said that they spoke to Robin's mother and her boyfriend, Richard Guinan. And police asked them to remember anything that Robin told them about Karen. They said the night after Karen went missing, Robin told her mother and Richard that Andy had killed the girl that was found under the Diamond High School bleachers, which is Doreen.
Yep.
She told them that Andy had picked up Doreen at Pigeon's Cafe and then killed her. And because she was extremely upset, her mom and mom's boyfriend didn't ask her any more questions. Robin said that Robin in nowadays, faced with
Present
that.
Robin.
Yes. She says she might have felt that way at the time. And then she said something weird. Like she said, and this isn't a quote, but it's close. She said a lot of strange things were happening around that time and that she did her best to sort out what was real and what was scare tactics.
Interesting.
And then she said, well, it was 40 years ago and I just don't remember all the details. Which that's fair.
I mean, that's fair.
So James tells her, Robin, that he thinks that Andy killed Doreen. And she said, that's possible. Anything's possible.
Yeah, anything's possible, Robin.
So she notes that Doreen and Barbara were killed very similarly. She's like, yeah, I guess I can see that. She said when Barbara was missing, Andy asked her if she'd seen her and told her all about this dream.
Yeah, that
And
he had where he saw her body
being
because he's
lifted by
by
angels.
angels.
Yeah.
Yep.
So he told her that Barbara was dead, tied up, and bludgeoned with a rock. And she said he knew everything before they found her. Everything.
Because he killed her.
Because he killed her, of course. So James brings up the time Andy took her and Karen to the police station. And she says she thought they were going for one reason, but it was something else. And it was really odd. And they never asked her what she meant by that.
Mm-hmm. Or if they did, they didn't show it.
Yeah, that's true. It's possible she just said, oh. I think what she was referring to is the first time that Andy brought the two of them in, and that's when they told the state trooper that it was Carl.
It was Carl.
They were starting to frame Carl. Yeah. So James tells her about the threat made to Karen's grandma, and she acts shocked. What? But it looked fake to me.
I had no idea.
It was a surprise to me.
I was so turned page shocked.
Yeah, it didn't. I wasn't buying that one.
I don't buy anything she says, though. To be fair,
I know, and I feel so bad for her that
I do.
I want to believe her,
Mm-hmm.
but I just don't.
And at this point, like I said earlier, I don't know if she believes all the lies. I don't know if it's, a coping mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. But all I know is I don't believe her.
Yeah, it's hard. It's really hard. I wish there was some way that she could tell the absolute honest to God fucking truth without having any repercussions. Mm-hmm. And we could just finally know what was really happening.
Right.
But anyway, so the filmmaker asked her about Andy and Karen's relationship, and she says she didn't know how they knew each other, but that when she was in the hospital, and she mentioned there was many times she was in the hospital, and they never talked about what that was all about.
I would assume it's for getting into fights or getting beaten up.
Yeah.
I mean, she was a sex worker.
Drug overdoses or
drug overdose. Yeah. I mean, she lived a rough life. So I'm assuming it's at least sometimes probably for fighting or getting beat up.
Yep. But she says that one of those times Karen and Andy came in together to visit her, and she was curious why they were together.
Right.
She asked, and Karen said, "Oh, he just gave me a ride." And I'm like, I put in my notes, don't ever use Andy's ride service.
No.
Because that's just...
use Lyft or Uber.
Yeah.
Not Andy's.
Right. So now the best part. James is about to ask her about the kid, the witness. And she says she remembers him. And she remembers his pajamas. And she said he was knee-high to a grasshopper.
Little baby.
I know. James tells her that the kid was on the roof of Harbor Terrace and saw her arguing, Karen, Sonny, and Carl Davis. And this is where she's doing that kind of weird smirking and blinking a lot. And that's where I was like, is that like a tell?
Is that her tell? Yeah.
And she stops him and says, I want to stop you. I want to ask you a question before you go any further. How old was he? And this is how she said it. I quoted this because it was so odd. Quote, his age now versus his age in February of 1980. Is he old enough to be up on a roof? And James answers, well, he would have been extremely young. I get what she's saying. She's like, you met him.
Yeah.
How old he is now.
Right.
Subtract that from 1980. But it was just a weird way to say.
But the thing is, even if he's not old enough to be up on a roof, his mom was a sex worker and a drug addict.
She was not like she was watching him every second.
It's not like she was sitting there going, okay, kid, did you eat your veggies?
Yeah.
Okay, time to go to bed.
Right.
So just
he probably wandered off a lot.
Yeah. Just because he wasn't old enough to not be on the roof doesn't mean he wasn't up there.
Right. Kids go places they're not supposed to go all the time.
Constantly. They 4 and below, I swear to God, they just have a death wish. Like anything to kill them, they want to do. So that was a dumb question on her part in my mind.
Yeah. But so when he says that the kid was extremely young, she just kind of does that weird smirk again. And then she goes, it didn't happen. It Didn't happen. And I put in my notes, and now he's dead. But I was just kidding.
He's not dead.
No.
But yeah.
No. I mean, I don't think he is.
Yeah.
I just meant like.
Right. Like she killed
Karen
him.
put a hit on him.
Yeah.
She says that's why she asked, because she remembers him being really small. And then she says she's never been on the roof of Arbor Terrace.
Which I find to believe a total bullshit lie.
I know.
Never. I would assume that given that it was the 70s, 80s, they probably had parties on the roof all the time.
Probably did.
All the time.
Yeah. She does this thing that you see liars do all the time where they try to throw in a lot of detail.
Yep.
And so she's like, I was here at one time, and then I got some weed from a lady over on the second floor one time, and then Carol lived over there. And I'm like, it's too many details.
Mm-hmm.
We already know you're lying.
Mm-hmm.
And then she says, quote, I'm not into closets and rooftops and basements. And I'm like, nobody mentioned basements or closets, but now that you have,
like,
I have some questions.
Yeah. What happened in closets and basements?
Yeah.
Robin.
I know. So then she brings out the old chestnut. I told a lot of lies a long time ago, and I don't tell stories anymore.
Right. Sure you don't.
Swear she's telling the truth.
Yep. Wink.
So James then also tells her about how Andy was free the night of Karen's murder. You know how he'd gotten out of prison.
Yep.
And she says she didn't know that either. She said, you're actually blowing my mind with all of this information.
Wow.
It's possible she didn't know that. I mean, even the cops didn't know that. Some of them.
Yeah.
So then James throws her a bone by saying that Andy traumatized her. He thinks, is it possible that Andy traumatized her into thinking that she was complicit in what she was doing? And she says, yes, that's possible. And then I'm like, but wait a minute ago, she said she didn't think he was guilty of the murders.
Right. So which is it? Like within the span of one interview, you're contradicting yourself left and right.
Maybe he convinced her. Maybe he changed her mind. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But this part is really gross. But she says before he passed away, Andy, he sent her a letter saying that he only tried to make a woman out of her.
Gross.
She was 11 years old.
She was a child.
Yep.
She was a child.
Yep.
He was what, in his 30s, 40s? Sick.
At 11, he would have been in his 30s because at the time of Barbara's murder, he was 42. So
I hope he's in hell.
Yep.
Burning. Hope his penis is burning.
On fire 24/7.
Oh, she was a baby.
I know.
She was a little girl.
Hideous.
And he had a daughter.
I know. I wonder.
Not that should, not that not having a daughter justifies it, but like.
No, but you would think like, I wouldn't want anything happening to my daughter. Like the way his daughter tells it, they were best friends.
Yeah.
So what if someone said to him, how would you feel if somebody was doing that to your daughter?
What if he was doing it to her?
He could have been too. Yep. He could have been too.
And, she's just in this denial world that either she's completely blocked it out because she's trying to protect herself.
Yeah.
Or she thinks that was just, they were best friends because of that. I mean, he was sick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yuck.
Yuck.
Robin also says that he had a rifle in the trunk of his car. And he took it out and shot at her feet once. And she told police, but it didn't matter. She said it didn't matter. None of it mattered. So she had tried. She had tried to get help. And we talked about that before. It just, nobody would listen to her. Yep.
No.
Digby has something to say. That's Digby. So then she wonders, why didn't he ever kill me?
Yeah.
And I wrote in my notes, because he needed to pin shit on you.
Mm-hmm.
But also, he would have in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
If she hadn't gone along with the plan.
Yeah. Yep.
She would have been next.
She served a purpose.
Sure. Yeah.
She served a purpose.
The only reason that Karen was killed is because Karen knew about the Doreen thing.
Yeah.
And Robin knew how to keep her damn mouth shut. And so that's why she's alive.
Mm-hmm.
So James asks when she last saw Karen, and she says that it was when they left Karen's foster parents' home on February 8th, the day that she disappeared. And she actually does tear up. Mm-hmm. She said it still haunts her after all this time that she was going to Sonny's house to cheat on Karen that night.
Mm-hmm.
And then she never saw her again.
Yeah.
Which, grain of salt.
Yep.
So we end with Michelle McPhee, who I think is hilarious. She's the one that she's the wackadoodle one.
Yep.
She's not a wackadoodle, but she said Carl
She
was a
said
wackadoodle.
Carl was a wackadoodle.
Yeah. And a whiskey tango. A whiskey tango wackadoodle. That would have been a good name for the episode.
That would have been a good name for the episode.
Whiskey tango wackadoodle. But she says this is a case of who can you believe? Which we've said that honestly, from day one.
No, I don't really know if there's anybody you can fully believe.
I know.
Maybe Catherine, but she doesn't have any of the information on the murders.
I don't think Catherine's lying about anything. But I think that she doesn't have information about the murders.
When it comes to the crimes, I don't think there's anybody you can believe 100%. They're all it's all just too skewed.
Yeah. So this woman says that the DA was in the interest of closure, and he didn't necessarily have the interest of justice at heart. So then in January 2020, Carl is in talks with the Innocence Project, but then COVID hit.
Yep.
And just a little interjection here. They show a video clip of Mike Pence coming on to do a little update on COVID. This is March of 2020, of course, when it all hit.
Right as we started to shut down.
Yep. And he says, we have 43 cases of coronavirus and 6 Americans have lost their lives. And then this other guy comes on and says, the risk to Americans is low. And it made me so angry. And I looked it up. As of today, 1.06 million people have died. It was 6 at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Almost crazy. 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So this slowed down Carl's progress with the Innocence Mission. I wrote mission again. With the Innocence Project. It's a good band, I'm telling you.
Apparently.
And the production of the film also was slowed down. They played part of a conversation between James and Carl. And I was like, oh no, is Carl... I didn't know if Carl was even still alive. Now, you know? So I'm like, oh no, is he going to get COVID and die? They show footage of the he who shall not be named. I call him the
Cheeto
Orange Menace. Cheeto face. Talking about how the virus is going to just magically disappear. It's going to be like a miracle. It's just going to disappear. And I really wanted to punch something.
I can't listen to him without.
So angry.
I can't listen to him. Just hearing his voice.
I know.
Makes my blood pressure go up.
I know. Me too. Carl does get COVID, but he doesn't get sick. He doesn't. He has a few symptoms, but not bad. Like he lost his taste and smell. So then after he gets better and things open up a little, the wheels start turning again. We go back to Michelle McPhee. She says that while Carl probably should be in prison for all the things he did as a pimp, he should not be there for Karen's murder when there was no evidence, and it's all based on the word of a liar.
Yep. Admittedly a liar.
Yes. And he had inadequate counsel.
Yeah.
And then Detective Sylvia says he believes justice was served. Well, of course he does, because otherwise it's his fucking fault.
Right.
Being the one that was in charge of that whole case.
Yeah, he was like the runner for it. Like he was so.
I think he was the lead detective.
He was. Yeah.
Yeah. So now we're in October 2020. The Committee for Public Counsel Service, the Innocence Project. I put
mission again.
Yep, I did. So we're talking to Ira Grant, and he says this whole trial was a mess. And then when he looked closer, dug deeper, it was even messier than he thought. He says there's the evidence that Carl and the filmmakers have uncovered is significant and should be looked at harder.
Yeah.
And McPhee,
or lack of evidence for Carl because there was none.
Right.
There was none.
Right. Well, I think the evidence he's talking about is the witness, the kid.
Yeah, I know. I'm just reiterating that there was no evidence.
There was really
for Carl.
none. Yeah.
There was even evidence proving he could not have been there.
Right. There was photographic evidence.
Photographic evidence that he was at his stepmother's wedding.
Well, yeah, that was a Doreen's murder, but still.
Okay.
They wanted to, I
thought that was Karen's murder.
I thought it was too at first, but I looked into it a little bit more. He was at his stepmom's wedding the night of Doreen's murder. He was at the bars the night of Karen's murder. Okay. He also has alibis but they were by drug addicts, and so nobody believes him. There's no photographic evidence like there was with Doreen's. I think that's why they didn't end up charging him with Doreen, because they knew that he had alibi. He had photographic evidence. It was an alibi that he wasn't there.
Right.
And so I think that's why they didn't even try him for the Doreen, because they knew they weren't going to get him.
Okay. I was confused then. Yeah.
That's what I think happened. So Ira explains that Carl has to have new evidence in order to get a new trial. He believes that there is enough. And he says that, especially that Robin was forced by the DA to testify, the same thing that she said to the grand jury. And
Right.
then Ira notes that the police investigation into Barbara's case didn't take him seriously enough as a suspect for Doreen's.
And by
Andy.
him, they mean Carl Drew. They didn't take Carl Drew seriously as a suspect for Doreen's murder, right?
I think he's talking about Andy, because they have to show that if a jury had all the information that is available right now, that they would still convict Carl. And he points to the fact that Carl's team did not have what they call a third-party culprit, which is who else could it have
Anybody
been?
else could it?
Yeah.
Who could it have been?
So,
If it wasn't Carl
yeah,
and it wasn't Robin, anybody else could have
who
done
else
it.
could it have been? Yeah.
Yeah.
And they did not even bring up Andy.
No.
And that's, I think, what he's referring to when he says they didn't take it seriously.
Oh, okay.
So
Got
they
it.
never pointed to anybody else that might have murdered Karen. And the fact that the filmmakers have uncovered it, that it could have been Andy Maltese, could be enough to get Carl back in court and have his conviction overturned. But that is October of 2020, and it still hasn't happened. So I don't know what's going on, but
But the wheels of justice turn slowly.
they turn super slowly.
They turn super
Yep.
slowly,
Yep,
almost backwards sometimes.
Yeah. And then, as we talked about before, Robin was up for parole in March of 2022, and it was denied in October.
Yep. Just like 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Yep. And then the last thing we did talk about this, but we didn't say specifically. Trish, who was in this series, who says she was Barbara Raposa's friend, said she was also friends with Robin.
Karen, I think. Did she know
I
Karen?
think she knew Karen too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She kind of knew everybody in
She
this
kind of
circle.
did. I don't think she was a sex worker, but I think she was
No,
friends with all
I
these
think
girls.
she was friends with them.
I
Yeah.
think she might have been friends with them when they were younger, maybe. But anyway, she said at Robin's most recent hearing this year, Trish, I don't know, stood up, whatever, put in a letter, whatever, however she did it,
Dear
and
Judge.
said that Robin is a narcissistic, psychopath, sociopathic liar who, and that part was a quote, but then who, far from being the victim of circumstances, relished violence and was actually the ringleader in all 3 murders. She loved it, DeSoto said. She downplayed Murphy's depiction of Maltese as a pedophile, saying he began a consensual relationship with Raposa when she was 15 or 16, when he was about twice her age. That's not consensual.
That's not consensual. She doesn't have the mental
You can't consent when
capacity
you're
to
15.
consent.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know.
Okay.
And then she says that Andy never hit Barbara Raposa, or coerced her. And she said
Sure.
Andy was a mouse as far as I'm concerned. Robin was violent.
Andy was a rat.
I believe Robin was violent, but I don't think Andy was a
But that's
freaking
never
mouse.
been a question.
No.
Robin was violent. We know that.
Yeah.
That's
Life
not
on the street. You kind of had to be.
You had to be. If you were a sex worker on the street in the 80s, the 70s, you got to be violent or you were dead.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's
So that's how it ends.
That's pretty
Carl's
much the
still
end.
in jail.
Yep.
Robin's still in jail.
Yep.
You know, nothing has changed. Robin's still, Carl's still convicted. Robin's still in jail. And, you know, these girls were abandoned. These kids were abandoned.
Yep.
And they were, you know, wolves preyed on them.
Yeah. Like we talked about before, you know, in the 50s, people stayed married.
Right.
Dads worked, mom stayed home, took care of the kids for the most part.
Right.
And then when people started divorcing or having children, women would have children without a father around. They have to work, of course, because they don't have any money. And so their kids are left to their own devices. Yeah. And so they are not raised by
anyone. They're raised by the TV.
They're raised by themselves.
They're raised by
each other and the streets. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Nobody was protecting them.
No. And
sad.
it, you know, especially like Robin tried. She tried to get help and everybody failed her.
Yep. Yep. There's really no winners in this whole
No,
thing.
there's not.
It's a very, very sad story.
Everybody's a
all
victim,
around.
whether they're alive or dead. Everybody's a victim.
Yeah.
Even Carl.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. Think about the way his dad treated him when he was growing
Mhm.
up, you know?
And, even being in prison for 40 years on a crime he didn't commit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, he was, I think, 25 when he was
Mhm.
arrested, maybe a little bit older when the
But
trial was
that's his
finally done. But yeah, that's
his
like
whole life.
your whole adult life, pretty much.
That's his whole life.
So
If he got out now,
he wouldn't even know what to do.
what would he do? It reminds me of Shawshank Redemption, where that guy Red gets out of jail
Mm-hmm.
and kills himself because he is so lost. He spent his whole life in jail.
Yeah.
Carl spent what skills does he have? He doesn't have a pension. He doesn't have a 401k. He doesn't have a job. He doesn't even have a high school diploma.
Well, he might.
What's he supposed to? Well,
they might
have his GED.
Yeah, he could have.
Or
he
degree.
could be studying.
That's true. You're right.
Robin could be too, but still, that's your whole life. And Robin was only 17, so Digby, he's quite upset about this as well.
He is. Even if he gets out now, what's the point? Because obviously
he'd love to be out, I'm sure. But
being out is better than being incarcerated.
Yeah. But it's like those people that are, I used to work with a woman whose son was in the military, and he had been in the military since like high school. Mm-hmm. And she wanted him to get out because it was when the 9/11 stuff was going on and that war was starting up. Mm-hmm. And she wanted him to get out, and he didn't want to get out because he was like, I don't know what I would do. Mm-hmm. I get up in the morning, my clothes are here, my shoes are here. They tell me when to eat. They tell me what to wear. They tell me what to do.
They tell you what to think almost.
Yeah. He's like, I wouldn't have a clue what to do. Mm-hmm. Which is really sad to me. Really sad.
Yeah.
All right. So do you want to tell us what we're doing next week?
Yep. So I am doing, I believe it's called A Banshee Cry. Ooh. Which is season 2, episode 3. I did a random number generator.
Excellent.
So it aired in 2012.
Okay.
So
I remember one with a banshee. I won't watch it this time.
Okay.
Digby's not going to watch it either.
Digby won't. Good. Because if anybody's a blabbermouth, it's Digby. Like, gee, Digby, can I get a word in? And he's like,
he probably wants to go outside and run in the snow.
He probably does.
Gross. All right. So all we got left is an Alanism.
Yes. Alanism. Lay it on me.
And this, I'm not really sure what this means, but and I don't know what the circumstances were or why he said this, but
we have no context.
Nope. But this is the quote. Here comes that cast off in another direction shift of blame.
Okay.
I thought that was fitting.
Yeah. It is perfect for this episode.
Yeah. Here comes that cast off in another direction shift of blame.
Yep. Very, very fitting. Digby.
Oh, boy.
Calm down.
Calm down, buddy.
All right.
All right. Well, thanks everybody.
We'll talk to you soon.
Yep.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Activity Continues podcast. We really appreciate you giving us your ears for a bit. Please reach out if you have a suggestion for which episode of the Dead Files we should cover next, or if you have a spooky story you'd like us to share on the show. We can be reached at theactivitycontinues@gmail.com or through our website or any of our socials. Links are all in the description of the show. Please feel free to drop us a note and say hi. And join us next time when the activity continues. The Activity Continues is produced by me, Amy, at Collected Sounds Media and is part of the independent Collected Sounds podcast network. We are also proud members of the Boo Pod network of super cool podcasts.
Nailed it.
Hello everyone, and welcome to my podcast. My name is Alicia, and I am all the way from South Africa. My podcast name is Hello Poland. I am currently living in Poland, And being here gave me the advantage to learn some of the creepy stories and hear about the haunted places that's on this side of the pond. I am also talking about creepy, scary, and freaky people and places in South Africa. So if that is your vibe, please come check out my channel. I also occasionally drink and get my friends a little intoxicated. And then we chat about whatever they want to chat about. And it's lovely because the conversations, the more we drink, get quite hectic. And it's very entertaining. So if you are interested in discovering a new channel, or you just want to come check me out, or I mean like the channel, please don't come check me out. Anyway, if you want to come check out the channel, then you know where to find me. Hello, Poland. Okay. Have a nice day. Also, don't do anything stupid. Bye.